You're listening to the Limitless Wealth Method podcast. Smart ideas, real strategies, and candid conversations for business leaders. Here's your host, Jason Hilliard.
What's up, everyone? This is Jason Hilliard. Welcome to the Limitless Wealth Method podcast, my effort to share the ideas, strategies, and insights that help entrepreneurs, executives, and investors build wealth and live without limits. Every week, I'm pulling back the curtain on money, leadership, lifestyle, fitness, mindset, and emerging tech. Basically, anything that can help you perform at your highest level. So if you're getting value from this, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe on your favorite platform, watch episodes on YouTube, and share it with just one person in your network who'd get something out of it. My goal is simple: to help you grow your wealth and your life one episode at a time. Let's get into it. Today's guest is someone incredibly special, not just to the show, but to me personally. Jennifer Hilliard is a true Renaissance woman. She's worn more hats than most people do in a lifetime: teacher, caregiver, entrepreneur, and leader, and she's excelled in every one of them. Jen's journey started in Mishawaka, Indiana, where she began her career as a special education teacher, dedicating her time to helping children with unique learning needs. From there, she went on to teach in Chicago, Michigan, and Colorado, serving as an inpatient school specialist at Children's Hospital at the University of Colorado, working with kids battling cancer, traumatic brain injuries, and other serious illnesses. Her compassion and patience during that time were nothing short of inspiring. When we started our family, Jen made the decision to step away from the classroom and build something closer to home, literally. She became a homeschool teacher for our 3 kids while also launching her own business. And since 2020, she's built a thriving health and wellness company focused on community, longevity, and living age-free, helping others feel better, move better, and live with purpose. She's one of the hardest working, most selfless people I know. So let's get started. All right. So I wanted to probably start with the background of our parents, really your parents, and whether they were active, did they eat well, in addition to maybe giving a little background on, what kind of sports they played or what your side of the family did as far as sports were concerned.
Yeah. Well, both of my parents grew up in Mishawaka, Indiana, and it was the typical scenario of the quarterback dated the cheerleader sort of thing. So both of my parents were very active when they were younger. And my mom grew up on a farm. My dad was just super active anyway, playing football all the time. I think he played basketball and stuff too. But so they were pretty active in their younger years, and then as they got older and started having kids, I do remember my parents being pretty active. And I don't know, they did different things. I know, I don't even remember what it was called, but they used to hold up a magazine. So you got the date. Body for Life, I think it was. So I do remember them doing those kinds of things and being active even as I got a little bit older into my like teen years and things like that. And then, my parents are in their 70s now and continue to stay active. When they're down here in Florida, they go to a gym. So the community they live in, they have a gym. So they stay active, they ride bikes, they golf all the time. Definitely something that I think that they've maintained since they were younger. It was just kind of instilled in them as they were younger and kind of continued to have a healthy lifestyle.
What did they, as far as from what I know, most of your family, along with your brother and nieces and our nieces and nephews, they were pretty darn good athletes along with your father. So maybe go into a little bit about the baseline activity in sports they were involved in.
Yeah, so my brother and I were both extremely active. I know from a young age that we both were playing a lot of different things. We tried a lot of different sports or whatever. Of course, I wanted to be Mary Lou Retton at one point in my life, but that did not pan out. Obviously, my brother was a huge football player. He ended up playing for Miami of Ohio. He also, though, when he was in high school, played basketball as well. I was a huge volleyball player. I played volleyball since I was a very young age, probably our daughter's age, Kyler's age. Probably since I was like 9, I started playing volleyball. I also played basketball and track just to kind of keep in shape for volleyball. But volleyball was kind of my main sport. So that's kind of my brother and I. But, from there, my brother has 3 kids. My niece Kate played volleyball. and tennis. My nephew Jack ended up playing football. He was a quarterback. He played at Tulane for a while. And then my youngest niece, Evelyn, she actually plays for Miami of Ohio on a full ride for tennis. So I think both of us, including our kids, if I don't know if anybody knows about our kids, but we have three athletes as well. Our son is a level 10 gymnast at Evo Gymnastics here in Florida. Our middle daughter, she plays volleyball, just left in the gymnastics world to play volleyball. And then our youngest is also a gymnast. So that has kind of trickled down. And, I think it's generational that you see a pattern of, if your family was active, then you were active, and then you pass on that activity to your children.
So we're kind of molding a baseline here to get people, a basic understanding of our experience with what we're going to talk about later in the episode. But one thing I also wanted to talk about is when you were growing up, did you eat well? Did your parents eat well? Was that something that you had to learn later on? And how did that change?
That definitely has changed significantly. And I don't think that the food industry is the same as it was, even if we're talking fast food, but I definitely ate a lot of fast food. If you ask my mom, she would say that that's not true, but we did. I mean, not that we didn't have home cooked meals, we definitely did, but we were very active. We were on the go. My brother's 7 years older than I am. So naturally, when he was in high school, I was still pretty young, so we're driving all over to games and practices and this and that. Both my parents were educators, so there wasn't a lot of time. So we didn't eat great, I would say. Yes, we had family dinners, but we did eat a lot of fast food. So I definitely think that that played a role into what I'm doing for my children. I wanted to do just things different. I just wanted to do things differently. I wanted them to have home cooked meals where we were using less preservatives and really trying to focus on whole foods instead of, foods that aren't going to do well for them. Because obviously we're supporting the whole child, so academically and, their sport. And so we're trying to do everything that we can to give them the best support, which is through diet. I know that's something we really believe in. So I think that I definitely wanted to do things differently. Not that it was bad, but we were bad, but it just I think that our goal is that we're trying to make sure that we feed our kids at least 6 days of the week with good home cooked meals and, not vice versa. And I know a lot of people it's convenient for sure, price too, but I value our health, the long-term health of us over the price of a quick meal.
And so a lot of the foods we feed them, we feed ourselves, obviously. But part of the reason I know that I've changed over what I intake is because of some family history that I've seen through the years on my side. And I've been lucky in that a lot of the family history that I've had has been pretty healthy. There haven't been too many cancers, but there have been on my dad's side breast cancer, there's been prostate cancer. On my mom's side, there's been dementia and depression. So, two different diseases. But the fact of the matter is trying to eliminate or at least make sure that the probabilities are much lower. Part of that we can control is ingesting the food that we make and we purchase. So, part of the reason I even create the diet or we create the diet that we put in our kids in our mouths is because of the diseases that we continually see old and young that people are getting diagnosed with. So I know that you have some diseases on your family side, some cancers and some other things. That is what I think it's your mom's side, right, with the cancer side of things.
Sort of. I mean, yeah, my mom my mom had like a colon cancer and then also she has a benign brain tumor. But a big one has been strokes in our family. My grandma passed away of a stroke. My grandpa passed away of a stroke at a really young, early age. Siblings, you know, great aunts and everything have all passed away from strokes. And most recently, I had two uncles pass. One was from a stroke and diabetes, actually. It's kind of a double whammy. And then my other uncle had a form of like a dementia. And, that's sugar and all of that. I mean, even the cancers to everything. It's a huge sugar plays such a huge role in that, and so I think that that's something that too we try our best. I mean, we're not perfect by any means. Our girls love sugar, so we try our best to limit that. But I wish more than anything we could avoid it completely, but it's not realistic. But we try our best just so that we can avoid that outcome. I know I'm trying. I hope I never hear any of those diagnoses. And, I never ever want my kids to hear any of those diagnoses either. Not saying that that is foolproof. I mean, I know that's our goal is that we want to avoid that as much as possible.
So based on that, everybody knows that everybody has their early journey and they're trying to build habits. And obviously we're doing the same thing. What is a typical day? I know what our typical day looks like with young kids. How do we schedule our workout routine? Because I think the biggest impediment for people is providing themselves with the time to work out. So those early days when kids were little and life was chaotic and the idea of a balanced routine was basically a fantasy, which you and I both look at and laugh because honestly, we were a little insane. When you've got young kids and you have no family nearby, at the time we were living in Colorado, and we have careers pulling us in 10 different directions, the reality is you either adapt or you give up. And we chose to adapt. So I think one of the funny stories that you and I can really get a sense of how we did things when kids were young is that we used to bring the kids to our workouts because that was really the only option we had. So if everybody can picture this, it's 5 p.m. at a CrossFit gym. I'm doing, who knows, deadlifts, and Jen's doing a workout, and our son is literally hanging out in a baby swing, literally suspended from a pull-up bar. It sounds ridiculous, but the CrossFit community was actually pretty incredible with this whole deal because if he stopped swinging and started to cry, then someone would give him a nudge and keep him swinging. If he fussed or was crying, somebody from the next class would scoop him up and so we could finish our sets. It really was like an extended family. So when I was still working full time as an attorney and things were nuts, my schedule was brutal. I would work long hours and I had nonstop stress. So I had to carve out a time early, usually 5 a.m., which you remember. I'd hit the gym at 5:15, work out till 6:15 and be in court by 7:30 or 8 when I was practicing. And then I think you would go later in the day, right? At that time?
It ebbed and flowed. I mean, I was still a teacher. I was teaching at that time when I first had Ryle. And so, uh, man, it ebbed and flowed. I literally worked out in the evening, which was so hard. I look back on that now and I'm like, how did I do that? So I would work all day, come home to, a little baby. And then, yeah, we would hit the gym. And yeah, again, like you said, it was that community piece really saved me. I know, probably you too, just because especially for a mom and a woman, I think it's just easy for people to give up and say, this is my life right now. Like they're living in the moment versus thinking about their future. And for me, it was, yes, I have this little baby right now, but how am I going to protect myself for the future? And so it was that community kept me there. They kept me pulling me back. And like I said, they cheered me on for not the moment, but for my future and my kids' future. And I think it shaped who all of our kids are too, in my opinion. But yeah, at that time I was working out at, I don't even know if it was 5 o'clock. I don't remember what time it was, but it was late. I was definitely exhausted and, you know, not sleeping full nights of sleep because I had a little guy. And I think at that time too, we just got pregnant with Piper. This is when we moved down to the suburbs. And so we still joined a CrossFit community, which is still that community piece. And I was wiped, but I did it. I did it. And I'm, yes, so thankful for the community that pulled me in and kept me there. They kept me accountable, wanting to go back.
And we're going to talk about that community piece because I think it's important going forward. When we eventually opened York Street CrossFit, which was our own CrossFit gym, we made sure it reflected the reality that you and I were living, right? We built a dedicated area for kids. It wasn't an afterthought. It was a space that made parents feel comfortable bringing their families. And the whole place became an amazing community where we helped each other out. And it was less of a gym and more like like a community. So we're gonna go through that and give a real sense of, what that was like and how it helped. But, you and I both know based on what we just said that working out shouldn't feel like a chore, but it absolutely has to be a habit. And I know the habit started early for me. And I was around 15 when I first picked up a weight. I had a few buddies that I worked out with, and you've heard this story before where Matt, Brad, and we were three, 15-year-olds. My buddy Matt started working out this little place in Richton Park, Illinois called Body by Ivory. And one day he convinced Brad and me to tag along. And if you can imagine three skinny white teenagers walking into a predominantly black gym for the first time, we stood out like sore thumbs. But Ivory, the owner, couldn't have been more welcoming. He introduced us to Glenn, who is a former Marine. He was very no nonsense, serious, disciplined guy. And he sat us down one day and said, I'll train you, but you'll be on time, you'll be respectful, and you'll do exactly what I say, no complaining. He scared the hell out of us. But we did show up every day. And what started out as kind of an intimidating guy turned into respect. And Glenn pushed us really hard and built us something in us even more important, which was work ethic and confidence and belonging. So that
Mhm.
gym became like family. And that's where I really learned the value of consistency and grit. And to this day, to be candid, I think it's really what carried me through every phase of life, or every phase of, I should say, my fitness life. And so that's why that's where it started for me. I know for you, it was a little different.
Yeah. I mean, I never, man, I know I took a class when I was in high school that was like a fitness related, not like PE, but it was like a weightlifting. But I mean, back in those days, this is the 90s, and it wasn't as well known that women lifted and did things like that. So it was a little bit different. And I wouldn't say that I kept up with the weightlifting. I mean, it was more like women do jazzercise, and we did it in volleyball. We jazzercised in volleyball. We didn't really lift. And that even when we moved to Chicago, like I never really lifted. Like I did some machines, but most of it was, you got to run on a treadmill. And if anybody knows me, they know how much I absolutely despise running.
I love
So
it.
that was not my favorite thing to do. But really it shifted when we started CrossFit. I mean, we went to the Chi in Denver, and that was kind of the first introduction. But even when I did that, I thought, oh, I'm gonna go, run on a treadmill. And it wasn't until someone introduced us to CrossFit that I was like, this is kind of cool. This is kind of fun. And you had mentioned fun before. And like that's where really I found the fun. It was the community of people that we suddenly were finding within that CrossFit. And then the workouts were fun. I mean, you weren't doing the same old just run on a treadmill. You were actually doing such varied movements. And that's when fitness really became more meaningful and powerful to me, was at that moment, which was before kids. So that really snowballed the rest of how you and I, like, really raised our family, and the foundations that we created was really those early stages.
Yeah, I agree. I think that community aspect put us on the same page previously. We would go to the gym together, but we
It's
worked
different.
out in different methodologies, different modals, and we never really did the exact same thing. And when CrossFit came around, it was a community that both you and I really enjoyed. And this isn't all about CrossFit, but I wanted to at least give everyone a sense of why we're at the point that we're at. So as you had mentioned, in 2010, I started York Street CrossFit in Denver
Mhm.
with a few close friends. And at that time, CrossFit was really new, maybe a handful of gyms in the entire city. We didn't know what to expect. We weren't trying to build an empire. We just wanted a place for everyday people because CrossFit gyms can be intimidating. But we wanted to push each other to be better. So we were kind of the regular Joes of the CrossFit world. Nobody had any egos. There were no elite athletes, just people like you and I that were, trying to get better and healthier. And that simplicity somehow made it special. So the energy, as you know, inside was really unlike anything you and I have ever experienced. You could feel it when you
Mhm.
walked in. There was support, There was laughter, there was encouragement. Member cheered for each other like family. When someone hit a personal record, the whole gym, was excited and erupted. And when someone struggled, they had people to help them finish the workout.
Mhm.
Um, and I think for you and I, it provided us more than we, ever anticipated. We saw people come in overweight. We saw people come in injured, broken, not just physically, but mentally. And over time, we saw them rebuild themselves. They got stronger. They smiled more. It was really an environment that created a sense of belonging and shared effort. And that's what, in my mind, and you can tell me if you think the same thing, I think that that's what really made CrossFit so appealing to most, because workouts were typically an individual form of getting healthy. Wasn't maybe you had a buddy in the gym that you worked out with and you became friends. This was different. It wasn't just one-on-one. You had a community of people with the support and push you to become better. And you almost felt obligated to really compete with them and be there with them, as difficult as the workouts were. I got to say, I got to give it to CrossFit, because there are many fitness programs today that have not come out of CrossFit in some way, shape, or form. F45, Orange Theory, all these places are based off of CrossFit, of functional fitness. And so, that was really what you and I think the love of fitness really started there, where we saw eye to eye on everything.
For sure.
And so I think what was probably one of the most incredible things is, in a question I think you get asked quite a bit by some of the women, are, did you work out when you were pregnant? So maybe you can tell a little story about that, because that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow. Well, they were different for sure. I we did not belong to a CrossFit gym when I was pregnant with Ryle. That was when we were at Chi. So I was dabbling into CrossFit at the time, but it was not a CrossFit based gym. So it was more like yogas and spins, and they had weights and stuff around. So that pregnancy was a lot different. I gained a lot more weight with that one. I probably would say I was not the healthiest during my first pregnancy, um, because it was, even though there was some structure, I was at a gym, like you said, it still wasn't that community. I wasn't going to yoga classes with the same people every day who were encouraging me. Yes, there were a few people that maybe I would meet at the gym and, we'd say hi, pleasantries. But really, I still exercised throughout my whole pregnancy. In fact, the day my water broke with Ryle, I was on the treadmill talking to Michelle Lee, and we're walking on the treadmill, and she's like, "You need to go in," which is kind of funny. But fast forward to Piper and Kyler, much healthier pregnancies. I felt better. My diet was better. This is where we transitioned from, we thought we were doing all the right things, to now we really feel like we're doing the right things. And I CrossFitted the whole time with both of them. And it's kind of funny because, people, and I do think things have changed a little bit since then as well, but for sure with Piper, it was like, you cannot get your heart rate above 160.
Right.
And heaven forbid you do anything. Like, you just need to relax and rest. And I think we tell pregnant people that way too often. Like, oh, you're growing a baby, just do whatever, eat whatever, do whatever, kick back your feet. And yes, there's an element to making sure you are safe, but I never felt unsafe. I have pictures, and I'm sure we could probably dig them up pretty quickly, but I have pictures of me doing the CrossFit Open at York Street CrossFit with both of the girls pregnant. And, I gained a
Doing
lot less
deadlifts and
weight.
doing deadlifts and pull-ups from what I remember, because I was on the
I did,
sidelines going, I just didn't, no one knew what to say, because you had this
it was
huge
actually
belly.
cleans. It
It
was
was
squat
clean,
cleans.
and you
And I
were
did
you were doing actual
135
pull-up.
pounds.
Yeah.
And I did, yes, we had to do chest to bar pull ups actually.
I don't know how you got up
We
there.
did wall ball I did wall balls, like, all of that. I did through the entire pregnancy. I mean, until literally until Piper flew out of me, and I felt healthier. I felt better. I actually felt like my babies were healthier. I mean, I just all of the things. Like, I would always encourage women to take care of themselves again because this is a longevity thing. This isn't about that moment of like growing. Like you want your baby to be healthy, you want you to be healthy, and you have to set them up in a healthy way. And so I always would encourage women to continue to work out like I did. Maybe not, to each their own on how hard they want to work out, but I know plenty of people that work out pretty intensely now, which is super fun for me to see because I don't know, not that I was like a pioneer or anything, but like back almost 14 years ago, people weren't doing that. So, and CrossFit was still so new. People definitely were not doing that in the moment, but it took some time and yeah, I mean, I still think it was the best thing for my kids. And then like you said, they grew up in that gym.
You did.
So, I do think that's why all of my kids are incredible gymnasts now is because just they did that. They saw it and they lived it every day.
They mimicked it. They mimicked
Mhm.
everything, which is part of the reason we
Everything.
even put him into gymnastics because we would see him
Yeah.
go the kid was Ryle was like 2 years old, and he was doing handstands with everybody against the wall, thinking it was the greatest thing ever, but he would do it so easily and so fluidly when he would see it, and everything we noticed about Ryle was like and even with the other ones, they were either on the rings or they were upside down, or they were trying to do what everybody else did. We would have little barbells for them. They would do the movements. They would squat. They would deadlift. They just understood just watching everybody. And it was a
Mhm.
normal part of their daily lives. I think the
Right.
best part about this that you said was if you have the ability to bring your kids to a gym, even when they're
Do it.
young, you can't believe how much they actually watch and mimic, even though they might not be on the floor, getting them to understand that habitual thing that the parents are doing, that they're going somewhere every day and they're pushing themselves and they're sweating and they're doing all these cool things in the gym that really starts to seep into their mindset and really creates a structure for them when they see it. And so I think that's you brought up a good point. And the other thing that I know this, but I think that when you worked out when you were pregnant, the ability for you to bounce back was crazy. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
how long did it take you from having which might I add, Piper was born on the kitchen floor of our house, not on
Not
purpose,
planned.
not planned. I had to help Jen out with that one, but that's another story for another time. But how long did it typically take you to bounce back from these pregnancies?
I mean, again, this is another one where doctors would probably advise, or, certain people would be like, oh my gosh, you can't do that. And I know there are risks. Again, I feel like every woman knows their body though and knows how much they can and cannot handle. And I think a lot of it is determined too, like what you did while you were pregnant. I knew that I worked out the entire time. So post pregnancy, I should be able to get back into it. Yes, there's a lot that goes into post pregnancies, but for me, I just listened, and I know I was 2 days after Piper was born. I was back at the CrossFit gym. Not because I'm crazy, but just because that was my habit. That was my routine.
But
And
you
to
weren't
not
doing
do it,
anything heavy. You weren't doing anything heavy, you were just moving.
no, I just simply started to move, and I was able to test out what felt good in a comfortable environment. Again, like you said, that's a huge one. I mean, I know some of these bigger gyms are a little bit tougher and people don't always feel so comfortable, but these people were my family. They all probably could have watched on the kitchen floor and helped. Not really, but they were family. They encouraged me. They were there to support me. They were there to hold the baby, like just so that I could get that little bit of time. I mean, and they all sat in their little I even remember posting a picture and someone being like, "You better not drop that white weight on the baby." And I'm like, "Are you kidding?" Like, I'm not going to. But yeah, I bounced back super fast. Like day 2, I was back there, like you said, not doing anything heavy, but just simply moving my body, getting up and being active because I know this is something that you and I know, but maybe not everybody else knows. The longer that you sit in bed and do a bed rest, the faster your muscles are slipping away.
Mhm,
You're losing muscle mass so
mhm.
quickly.
Mhm.
especially as we age. And so that for me was a non-negotiable. I was not going to be sitting there wasting myself away and losing everything that I had worked for to maintain. I wanted to keep all that muscle mass intact and not lose it. So bouncing back was pretty important to me as well. Wasn't the whole, I mean, it was everything. It wasn't just pre-pregnancy, it was pre and post and building every day from where I was.
And Jen's kind of a freak of nature in that regard because she is very athletic. The ability of normal people, of normal individuals, that doesn't always happen, but it was pretty insane the time that it took from having a child at home with no drugs, to getting back into the gym. I think we named a WOD after you, after
We
that, and
did,
in
yeah.
addition, where we had to carry a medicine ball around our belly. I think we taped it with
Well,
duct
that was
tape.
with Kyler.
Yeah, and we taped it with duct tape, and we did a workout being a pregnant woman, and that sucked. I won't lie. It's like, that was really
That was
tough. It was
fun.
a 20-pound, medicine ball stacked to your lower abdomen, and it was not fun to run with that thing.
It gave all of you quite the perspective,
It did.
didn't it?
It did. I was exhausted after it. But, that's part of the environment that we were, all these individual members built around York Street CrossFit and that's a perfect example of the support we received from everybody, and including, our wonderful, business partners that took over while we were gone. So, that was a big support system for you and I that to do that. So, moving on to something that I think we talked about previously, but I think is important, is I think one of the biggest questions people ask me is, how do you hold each other accountable without turning it into a fight? And I think we discussed this a little bit. We don't fight really very often, to be candid, but fitness is one thing that we've been on the same page together since CrossFit 16 years ago. That's crazy. Actually, it's probably been 17 or 18 years ago. And it's a great question because it can be tricky. And I don't know what it comes down to with you. I know for me, it's a shared commitment in moving forward in a healthy way, creating habits early on. Ours were not very early on. Like I said, you and I worked at different we worked out at the same facility, but we did different things. And we came together 17, 18 years ago, really in our fitness journey. And that was where we started supporting each other to meet those goals. And not, we never policed each other. We just had this same mindset where if you would work out, I wanted to work out, and it pushed each other. So from your standpoint, what can people do to either eliminate or work together to reach that point?
It's hard because I know fitness is an individual goal. I think for you and I, though, and this is where, especially being in the industry, so being in the supplement industry for myself too, and the health and wellness and fitness as well. I want people to have longevity. Like that's our goal. We want to live. I don't care that if I live to be 100. I just want to, for as long as I do have here on this earth, I want to live it well. And so I think that's a common goal that you and I have, which I know not everybody has. And it's not something that you can necessarily force either. But for people out there that are looking for that, it doesn't even have to be their spouse. I know that's the easiest place, and I'm grateful that I have a spouse that's on the same page in terms of working out and eating and even the drinking. I think we're pretty much on the same page with that too. If you can't find it within your spouse, which I know is the first place you want to look, there are other people out there. There are so many people. I know I am always the first person that I want to help anybody I can. People will talk the talk and say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah." But I love it when they actually truly come to me. Whether it's, "Hey, can you give me workout ideas?" Or "How are some healthy eating habits?" Or "Jen, the protein supplements." Of course, that's what I love to do. But I think that if they can just find somebody, like I said, it doesn't have to be their partner, just somebody they can cling to, whether it's a best friend, or even if it's just a random person that they meet, at the gym or something that they just instantly connect to. I think just finding someone that can hold them accountable and share just that likeness, that sameness as them, I think is beneficial. I know I might make it sound easier said than done, but because I have that already, I think there are so many people that are actually looking for it and people just don't realize it.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's a good point, especially with the spouse thing. I think ultimately you might have differing opinions, and all spouses have differing opinions and goals. But going back to the community, it doesn't have to be CrossFit. It can be 45. It could be, Orange Theory. It could be, anything. But a community of like-minded individuals that can support you. Support and community are the biggest aspects of fitness and meeting your fitness goals. Somebody that can keep you accountable. As Jen said, it doesn't have to be your partner. And sometimes what I've seen owning a gym for 8 years, and you've probably seen this too, we'll have a spouse, typically the wife, will come in a CrossFit gym and they will love it. And they will be consistent. They'll be there 3 to 5 times a week. They'll do the workout. They love it. Months down the road, 2 or 3 months down the road, they bring their spouse on a Saturday and they're like, this is so and so. And that spouse, we meet them, everybody introduces themselves, and somehow he will come that Saturday. And maybe we won't see him for a couple weeks, and then he'll come for another Saturday. And all of a sudden, he starts seeing what his wife originally saw, and they end up working together. I've seen that more times than, I can't tell you how many people we've seen have that happen, but it really takes one spouse taking the initial step to find a program that fits their mindset and eventually showing your spouse in action form. You don't have to talk to them about it, showing them that you're committed to something and that this is a non-negotiable and that this helps them in the long run. As you said, it's not much of a life if one partner is pushing the other in a wheelchair, right?
Right.
We work hard now so we can live well later. That's what you and I believe in. But if you can do that through action, then the quality of your future together is going to be much more beneficial. So if you understand your partner's goals and then you respect them for it, it changes everything and become allies, not adversaries, right?
Well, and I always say that, and this goes even to the children, as we were talking before about mimicking, leading by example.
Yep.
So if it's something that is really in there for someone, if you're out there and you're listening and you're like, this is something very important to me that I live, maybe the non-toxic life, the healthy life, getting back on track with your eating habits, my workout habits, all of that, I encourage you to start because the leading by example and continuing to do it, like Jason said, it's only going to show someone, their like spouse or whatever is going to be like, well, hey, they're looking good. Hey, they feel good. They have more energy. They have restful sleeps and they're going to want that too. It's like something that, people then are like, I need that too. I want to chase that as well. And then, it only benefits the kids too. So if you have kids at home, they see it and they want to do it. I mean, we have perfect example is I was making Ryle a protein shake every single day. And suddenly the girls kind of were like, fine,
Hmm.
we want one too. And now suddenly they're doing it too. So it's contagious. It's just one of those things where if you can continue to lead by example, like it is hard to bite that bullet at first, but I mean, if longevity and living well, living age free means something to you, then you got to just do it and lead, and it will eventually happen. Or you're going to find a friend that you're like, they're going to be like, hey, I want to join you on this journey. Somebody is it's going to be magnetic, and somebody is going to join you on that journey. And together you will find that accountability partner.
Piggybacking on that, our training has evolved I'm 46, almost 47, which scares the shit out of me. But our training has evolved from our 30s to our 40s. And when we started York Street, I was like, I don't know, 30, 31 years old. I was a baby. And so when we talk about CrossFit, I have taken out I still do functional training, but I've taken out a lot of the daily CrossFit routine because my body was reacting for the first time ever about a year and a half ago. You and I changed because my body was acting in a negative manner. What I was noticing, and I don't know if it was the same for you, but through the years, I have had nagging injuries through CrossFit, and that's the downside to CrossFit, but I was listening to it. In addition, my body structure was changing. I once had, a pretty lean physique, and I was starting, and this is part of it was because of age. I was carrying more weight in my midline. In addition, I wasn't very enthusiastic about doing the workout anymore. I was more of like just going through the routines and not really pushing myself to the point I really need to push myself because I was a little bit bored. At that point, I knew that I had to change, and it was difficult because this is 16 years of constant high stress CrossFit that I put on my body, and my body was just telling me it was done. It was ready. So for me, that was kind of my move into the direction that you and I actually both went in, which was pretty impressive. You actually took the step forward before I did because I had a harder time letting go. So what was it with you that kind of told you that it was time to step back and give your body a different fitness regime?
You know, aging is so fun sometimes. But truly, it was kind of some similar things. Like I was starting to just kind of we don't go to the gym anymore. We have our own gym in our garage, and so a part of me was, kind of getting a little bored and a little bit like I don't know, like I feel like I need a change. Again, perimenopause. I know all men go. I don't want to hear it, but the truth is I was like, I feel the change is happening. I know it. You know your body, especially when you do what we do. We really know our bodies. And it was just to me, I started kind of investigating and trying to figure out like what do I need as a I'm 45 now, but 44 at the time, like what do I need at 44? Like what's happening? What's going on? And for me, I just did more research and it was like perimenopause is, you need to work on your muscle. Skeletal muscle mass is so important as we age. It starts declining significantly when we're 30. And I was 14 years past that going, oh, not that I wasn't doing anything. I mean, CrossFit definitely was lifting and everything like that. But I was like kind of the same, like tired of beating my body up. I was honestly tired of pull ups. I don't love pull ups.
Well, you and
And
I both
so,
have golfer's elbow, so it makes it almost
yeah,
possible to do.
exactly. And so for me, I knew I needed the change of more weightlifting, more band work, more resistance training, and those kinds of things to help build my skeletal muscle mass because I clearly was starting to lose it even with doing CrossFit. I kind of took out the element of lifting and was just doing like the workout of the day part and I was like okay that's not working anymore. Um I I switched it and I feel great. I never thought I would say how much I love lifting, but I do. And it's been really great for my body and what I'm going through physically, just with the changes and the hormones being all over. I feel stronger than I've ever felt. And so that was much needed.
Yeah, the goal as we get older is simple. It's to maintain and build lean muscle, skeletal muscle, like you said, while staying really flexible and mobile. Flexibility is a huge component of that. So stretching and mobility work is hugely important. I think from our standpoint, how we work out now is, it's a lot of focus on time under tension using medium heavy weights, really slowing things down. Reps follow something like a scheme, like a 3-1-1 or a 2-1-0 tempo, meaning that you have a slow, controlled descent, a brief pause, and then a strong, deliberate lift up. And it's really maintaining control throughout the entire movement. So you're building strength in both fast and slow switch muscle fibers. And every one of our workouts runs about an hour and 20 minutes. We hit about 5 to 8 movements, but we do stretching and mobility. We do a short Metcon or warm up. We have the main lift and focus areas. That's really the meat of the session. And finally, we do some core work, which for me is big because I tend to get lower back pain when I don't have my midline strong enough. Once my midline is strong enough, my nagging little lower back pain goes away. But So you and I we really do the same, very similar workouts and at the same time.
I'm
And
not very good
so,
about the core part.
yeah, I hate it, but I do
Well,
it
that's
because I know I
usually
need it.
when I'm like, I gotta take someone to gymnastics.
Yeah.
So I cut
Yeah.
that out. That's bad.
Yeah. And I mean, aging really isn't the enemy. It's really neglect really is the enemy. Because once you hit
Hmm.
your 40s, as you said, things start to change. Metabolism slow, recovery takes longer, and you start losing muscle mass every year. And so it's really your muscle mass. I think of it as your body's armor. It protects your joints,
Hmm.
it supports your metabolism and helps with your brain. And so that's really why we ended up not eliminating on Saturdays. I'll do a CrossFit workout because I like to get my heart rate up past 160 at least one day a week. And so my heart rate yours and my heart rate stays pretty elevated through all these workouts,
Hmm.
but CrossFit just
It does.
pushes you to the red line, right? I need one day where I'm pushing myself to the red line. And to be candid with you, it's been awesome because I
Yeah.
shock my body a little bit and I get really a pop of just my body feels good after it. So, another way, are there any, you're going through this with, you're going through a doctor that's providing you some insight into, levels that you're looking at. Is there anything, I know you wear an Apple Watch. I don't. Is there, if anything, do you track anything as far as biomarkers beyond maybe, your heart rate?
I mean, I should. I'm obsessed, which I know you think my watch is disgusting, and somehow this thing has lasted forever. But I really try my best to get 10,000 steps. Like that's a non-negotiable. I'm really actually aiming. I'd really love to get more like 15, but days like today where I've had a lot more sitting for traveling to and from gymnastics, it becomes a little harder. So I make myself go for a walk or whatever. But other than that, I haven't. I'm kind of hoping that with this functional medicine doctor that I'm seeing, we just did a lot of blood work just to kind of get baselines. So I think this is the start of something good. Insurance won't cover a lot of blood work, which is unfortunate, but I hope I can get some baselines of where I'm at. And then, it would be great at least once a year to recheck, just to see how my levels are doing. But unfortunately I don't. I track my protein though. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some blood work done. I think the biggest things for anybody to really look out for, at least for somebody my age, what I would look at is I would monitor your blood glucose levels every once in a while to see what types of food end up spiking those levels. I know that really this is recent in my 40s. I used to drink a lot of beer. I used to love beer in my 30s. I drink a beer now and I want to just go to sleep. And so I got a glucose monitor and I had a half a IPA. A half hour later I would use the glucose monitor and my glucose levels went from 88 was it at 88 milligrams over deciliters, and then it went from 88 to 130 with a half a beer. So it was telling me that beer was no good. And then the other one that I would say is really important is your VO2 max, which tells you how efficiently your heart, lungs, and muscles work together to deliver oxygen during exercise. So as we age, that VO2 max naturally declines. And so in your 40s, especially. So people don't realize oxygen delivery isn't just about muscles, it's about your brain. So those VO2 max helps preserve really your memory focus and cognitive performance. So I would say if you can measure those two, I think it's going to be extremely important going forward for your health and nutrition. And that leads us into, and one thing I will say is that a lot of people that I know are taking data from their Whoop or their Aura Ring, downloading it, placing it into an AI and getting a sense, and they do this consistently, getting a sense of, what markers are off, what they can do better, and they're becoming more and more efficient in their workout and in addition to their diet. So that's an easy way to do things without going to get necessarily blood work that's going to cost you $300 every time. So that brings me into my next thing, and that's really nutrition, and that's really what you help the family with. And I think it's probably one of the most important things for us as we've noticed, especially with our kids, the kids are, especially Ryle. Ryle has been, he's his ability to really get as strong as possible has been unbelievable with supplementation. So I wanted to talk a bit about supplements, what our diet looks like from wake up to sleep, if we fast, negative effects of booze, that kind of things. As far as that's concerned, I think it's important for people to understand where we're coming from. So I'll I'll kind of give you a sense of what I do. So in the morning, when I usually wake up around 6:05, I drink coffee, usually black with MCT oil. I'll drink an Element, which is basically a salt-based water. I'll take creatine with it and collagen. I'll work out. And then about 8:30, I'll drink a protein shake after my workout. Around 10:30, I'll eat probably 2 eggs, some salmon and yogurt with granola and blueberries. And for lunch, I know everybody hates it in the family, but I'll eat sardines with crackers, which is pretty light. I don't like to eat a really heavy lunch. And then for dinner, I'll eat a meal, which will be meat, veggies, and starch. I typically, personally, I do fast probably once or twice a month. I have tried the 16-8 fasting, which is 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours, you have your meals. It didn't work very well for me because I never got into ketosis. When I fast, I do so for 24 hours. It allows me to remain in ketosis. I also get a burst of energy in the afternoon, and the next day my gut feels healthy and my mental clarity is really good. So from what I understand, as far as fasting is concerned, if you go 24 hours without food, your insulin levels drop significantly, and it allows your body to switch from burning glucose to burning fat for fuel. And your body becomes more efficient at managing blood sugar. And over time, that can actually reduce inflation and stabilize your energy and even help prevent metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes. So once your body moves into fat burning mode, your brain starts running on ketones, which is a cleaner, more efficient energy source than glucose. So I will report I do get heightened focus. I'm much more productive, and I'm really calm during my 24-hour fast, and that's why it's been really good for me. And then, as everyone knows, the negative side effects of booze, I have, over the course of the last, we'll call it, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. I was never a huge drinker, but I've reduced it drastically because the studies that have come out are extremely scary on causing everything from dementia to Alzheimer's to forms of cancer. So I try to stay around 1 to 3 drinks per week, as does Jen. Of course, 0 would be the ultimate division from these horrible diseases, but I do enjoy wine, so I have some on occasion. So alcohol is one of those things that have become, you know, something that, I don't know, I may eventually get rid of. Right now, I just enjoy, wine, but I will say over time, it hardens your arteries, it weakens your heart, and it accelerates aging. So even small amounts chip away at your energy and focus. So that's kind of where I come from on the nutrition side. I'm going to let Jen kind of go through what her diet looks like from wake up to sleep, if she does any fasting, and some negative, and what her, alcohol intake looks like.
Yeah, like I said, this has evolved a lot as well, but uh, the more recent, again, with research and just things that I'm learning, and I kind of am the head of this department, I guess you could say, for our family, because I do all the grocery shopping and buy all the supplements for our family. So I can talk a little bit about both what I do for myself and then the family. For me, I really focus on a eating structure of 3 meals a day. So I have 4 hours in between each meal with 0 snacking. Snacking just increases it keeps that insulin level spiked, and then we become insulin resistant, and that's not great for our bodies, obviously, to live in that insulin resistance. So we really want our bodies to come back down from eating and level out versus always staying elevated. So that 4 hours between each meal. So I'll eat breakfast, and then I wait 4 hours. So typically I'm eating I don't know, 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then I won't eat until after I pick the kids up from gymnastics. So we usually get home about 1:30. So I definitely have the 4 hours there. And then I eat around 1:30, like I said, 1:30 or 2. And then we're not eating dinner till probably 6:30 or 7. So there's my next 4 hours. And then after that, I fast until the next day. So I'm probably more at like a 16-hour fast at that point, give or take. Some days today it was 12 exactly because I ate a piece of pizza, homemade pizza last night at 9:30. But that just to me is super important that I'm not snacking. I was a huge snacker before. Not a huge snacker, but I just was one that was like, okay, I'm gonna eat like my meal, and then I'm going to have a snack and then I'll eat a meal and then I'll have a little snack. And the more research I was doing at how bad that was for my body, I actually eliminated that completely. And I actually feel great. I thought I would really miss the snacking, but I definitely don't. So, all of my meals, I do make sure that I am hitting at least 40 grams of protein just because, and I say at least, it's really should be more about 50. My goal every day is that I'm eating about 1 gram of protein per 1.2 gram body pounds of body weight. So I'm about 155 pounds. So honestly, on the lower end, I should be eating about 155 grams of protein every single day. And that's for energy, that's for my metabolism, that's for my skeletal muscle mass. That again, that is everything. So that's kind of my focus. And then obviously I do eat veggies. I don't eat a ton of fruit, but that's my main source. And we all know protein keeps you satiated longer. So that's also the goal is that I'm eating that higher protein to help keep me full longer. So that's kind of my eating regimen. Obviously for the family, I'm making kids breakfast and well, now that we homeschool again, lunches and dinner. And again, I'm always focused on protein for the kids, even. I know that is not a huge priority for people, but for me, especially with our athletes, I am hounding them about protein all the time just because it is so important. That leucine that you find in animal products, not as much in plant-based products unless there's leucine, like the Shaklee protein has leucine put in it purposely because we know that is the most essential amino acid for building and repairing muscles. And with the way that our kids tear their muscles up every day, that is so important to me that I'm getting them the protein. So our meals at night, I am one that when we did have meals, I felt like we kind of had the basic same meals. And there are a lot of pros in that just because it keeps things consistent. But for us, I do try. I mean, we do have quite I guess, the book of recipes now that we do like as a family that are high protein, low glycemic that we use. So that's kind of like my goal for the family too, is that those dinner times, especially, it's our non-negotiable that we eat dinner together that I have for the kids and for us as a family. Now, supplementation is still huge. And I know you touched a little bit on that when I was trying to find my phone plug. But I am every morning, my kids, every single one of them, and myself included, and you too, we all have a protein shake. So to me, that is imperative just because that helps boost that extra protein that I'm not getting through meat on a daily basis. And again, like I said before, the Shaklee has leucine built into it. So we are pumping them with the leucine, which is that important amino acid for them because they need it for their gymnastics and volleyball too for Piper. It's desperately needed to help them, build and repair those muscles that they're just torching at practice.
Hmm.
But I'm also I take the vitalizer strip. I wholeheartedly believe our gut is our second brain. So that is desperately needed. So I take a probiotic every day and our life shake, which is our protein. That also has a prebiotic and a probiotic because I want to keep my gut microbiome intact. Same for my kids. It has the B and C complex. It has the multivitamin, which was invented by Dr. Shaklee here in the United States. And what else? It has the omegas and the carotenoids in it. So for me, that's kind of like my foundation. It's going to fill in all my nutritional gaps that I have because let's be honest, no matter how well I eat, I'm still have gaps in my nutrition. So that helps fill it. And then I take a few other things for recovery. I do other gut. I do a pre-workout energy drink from them. But it's also important for the kids. I mean, and you can talk to this too, Jason, is that, when our kids are going through puberty and everything, they're growing and changing, and things are so important. So, especially for Ryle right now, again, being just an elite athlete, I'm trying to make sure that he's well taken care of to prevent injuries. And then for all the little nagging things, such as his back that happened this summer and his wrist that it is bugging him, I am pumping him with things that are super important for those to help with inflammation, to cut back on that, and to really just boost his bone density too. Just because he desperately needs that as he's growing. That's kind of
Yeah.
a very fast overview of the supplements, but
No, it's good because I think that, the supplements that we take, I've noticed a considerable difference in my ability to heal, to get back into it after being beat up a little bit, because every once in a while we'll get beat up, I'll be sore.
Mhm.
The soreness doesn't go away as it once did, but the supplements certainly help it. Obviously, I've seen a change in the kids. I've seen a change in my gut. I don't have issues with I have almost zero issues on gut unless I'm an idiot and I eat something I'm not supposed to. You know,
Yeah,
I have a problem with donuts. So, I may eat one of
donuts.
those or stuff like that, cronuts. But other than that, the supplements have been a huge benefit. And in fact, all the coaches, with Kyler, our youngest, or, uh, even in Piper, I will say, I will make a note of this, is that the ability of kids to transition into another sport after having the basis in gymnastics is like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, it is
It's incredible.
unbelievable, the ability for my middle one to stop gymnastics at level 8, try out. She had never really played volleyball on a high level. Maybe she did a little bit of volleyball when she was younger for a year, messing around, but she was able to make a travel team that like 2 months after she stopped going to gymnastics. She made a volleyball team. And so the ability of these kids um, to use, gymnastics gives them such body awareness and fine motor skills and development of their musculature at a young age that it carries on and transfers into any other sport you could possibly imagine. And I think that, along with the vitamins and supplements they take, Ryle has gone from a kid that did gymnastics, he was kind of a little guy, to being a kid that is probably one of the strongest in that gym. It's really pretty impressive to see, and I think it's a testament to what we've tried to put in their diet along with the supplements that they're taking.
100%.
Speaking of recovery, I know that you probably don't do a whole lot of it, mostly because you're scared of the cold plunge and you wuss out, um, and not cryo. Is there anything that you do as far as rehab? It can be easy, like, foam rolling or stretching or anything else that you do rehab that you feel is something that helps you kind of move forward on a daily basis.
Well, I do take a supplement that helps with recovery, so that's one thing that I do love that just helps my muscles relax and recover at night. But aside from that, like I do foam roll every day. It's kind of my peace in the morning, to be honest with you, because you and I wake up early around 6 a.m. to go out and work out. And it kind of just gives me 10 minutes just to roll out my muscles and just have a little peace. So that's about all I do. I know I probably need to do more, but it's a start.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've gone a little nuts in this regard. I mean, I've tried it all: red light, cryo, infrared, sauna, cold plunge. I don't have a problem with cold. I have a lot of, I'll say, I'm a bigger guy. I'm 6 foot. Your Jen's gonna smile. Probably around 210, something like that. So when I go into cryo, sometimes it's a little more. It depends on the day. But anyway, when I go into cryo chamber, what I've noticed is that I go for about 3 minutes, and the intent is to your body is usually at somewhere in the high 80s skin temperature, high 80s, 90. What you're supposed to do is once you go into that cryo, it's supposed to drop your skin temperature by 30 to 40 degrees. And there are different, levels to that. But when I do it, if I go in there for 3 minutes, I get pretty close to that 30 degrees. They, for some reason, can't get my big ass to go down lower. So 90, 90 degrees, I'll get down to, 62 typically. And so, but what I do feel is the ability of my body to release a surge of like dopamine, which boosts my focus and my mood and mental resilience. That cold exposure is really, really helpful for even speedy recoveries. And then I don't do a whole lot of infrared sauna because we live in Florida and it's hot down here. So infrared sauna maybe in the winter months. And then cold plunge I will do. I've been telling my wife that I want to have a cold plunge. She won't have it because it looks like crap outside. But anyway, my point is that one's a little tougher to get into than cryo, in my opinion, because that that sudden flight or fight response is really, really high when you get into a cold plunge. You're at about 40, maybe 38 degrees, but it's hugely helpful. It does really the same thing as cryo. I think cryo is a little bit better than cold plunge, but it does do some pretty amazing things for me. I can't cold and hot therapy, in my opinion, if you can do them, if you have the time and you have the ability to do it, I would highly suggest it. I think it's huge. So what I really want to go into next is really what does our sleep look like? And did it change from moving from Colorado to Florida? And, what do what does it look like? How does your sleep work? Well, I'll tell you this. For my sleep, it changed drastically from Colorado to Florida. In Colorado, my body was working really hard when sleeping, so I would get up frequently in the night because there's less oxygen in the air, and my body was compensating by breathing faster and harder, especially at night. So the altitude was really produced more adrenaline and cortisol and to maintain my oxygen balance. So I noticed that it was really difficult for me to fall asleep in Colorado. But in Florida, I'm now at sea level, and my ability to go to sleep is, I can do it in a second. The biggest thing for me is that at night I read before I go to bed, and I turn off my phone about an hour and a half before I go to bed. That is a non-negotiable. Jen is completely different. Jen will sit in bed with her phone in front of her face. I don't know how she does it. I can't stand it, but my phone at about 9 o'clock goes in my office and I don't touch it.
I've been better. I put mine up, but I still like to have at least the TV to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I just can't do it. My mind, if I can read a book and get my mind to relax, I can go to bed much faster and much easier.
Yeah.
I know we don't have much time. So one thing I think would be helpful is giving me the most common mistakes, health or fitness wise, that you've made and what you learned from it.
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot now. Wow, mistakes. I mean, you live and you learn. There's a lot of things I wish I would have just known or done early rather than mistakes, I guess you could say. I wish that maybe I would have eaten better earlier in my life where, I thought I was eating okay. I think that I mean now that I can look on it, I wasn't eating great. Um, but gosh, I mean, working out, I feel like I did a lot of things. I mean, you can only do what you can do. I think the bottom line is just moving. I think one of the things that I have instilled is just it's a non-negotiable to move my body, whether it's vacation because we travel a lot with our kids for gymnastics. Like I make it a non-negotiable that I'm moving for at least 10 minutes, intentionally moving, not just because we're walking Disney, but did I get up and do something? So not necessarily a mistake, but I wish I would have started a lot of that earlier in life, but here we are. It's fine. That's the best part about health and wellness and fitness is that it's never too late to start. So that's always my encouragement to everybody is just do it. If you want to help your future self, start now.
I know you have to go. I'll give my health and
Sorry.
fitness mistakes. We appreciate it. Thank you for the time. I know we
Yeah,
got to
thank
bring the
you.
kiddos to gymnastics.
Yep.
I'm gonna let you go, but
All right. Thank you.
I'm sure there'll be another one.
Yes. Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So I am going to say a couple things. I have made some fitness mistakes throughout my career, and I think they're probably a little different than people expect. I used to always say that you must squat. You have to squat. You have to deadlift because I thought if you wanted to stay strong, that you have to do those two things. And as I've gotten older, I realized that there are movements that provide the same, if not better, benefits than old school squatting or deadlift. So, my biggest mistake or biggest course correction that I made is I don't squat as much as I used to. I don't deadlift as much as I used to. And I certainly don't do handstand push ups anymore. So, what can you do to really get the same benefits from those, but not actually do them? So, we do a lot of one leg movements. And that movement that provides me personally with strength, balance, and stability that takes over a lot of the squatting that we used to do is reverse lunges with your front foot on top of a plate and you're reverse lunging back with either, you can do the movement with a barbell, kettlebell, or dumbbells. It doesn't really matter, but you don't get the lower back pain, you don't get the knee pain, etc. And deadlifts are the same. There really are plenty of movements that provide the same benefits. And as you get older, deadlifts are more brutal on your body. And getting hurt at 46 is way different than getting hurt at 30. So deadlifts could take me out for months. But if I'm smart about it, I can get the same benefits from doing things like one-legged deadlifts or barbell glute bridges or hip thrusts or kettlebell swings or sled pushes, etc. These will get as good, if not better, results. As you get older, you have to be smarter about training as you get older. If your body is giving you negative feedback, you have to listen to it. There are other ways. So a couple, you really, you have to be able to find someone that if you are doing some online training, I know we talked about possibly going to, you know, some type of community oriented fitness facility, but you really need to find somebody if you're doing this online and you're doing this solo and you want to get it going solo. There are so many choices out there. It's almost, you're kind of frozen with options. So you really want to do a little due diligence on workout regimes that might work well for you, specifically working well in your age category. Because, like we said, skeletal muscle health is really the most important as we age. And so there are a few guys that I think, and girls that I think are pretty good at providing some solid understanding and actually a really solid methodology going forward. One of the individuals is, you may know his name, I'm not sure, but his name is Mike Boyle. He does some incredible stuff. He does Mike Boyle strength and conditioning. I have no affiliation with him, but I have used some of his stuff before. I think it's awesome. The other individual is Jeff Cavalier, I believe his name is. He does, I think his website is Athlean X or Athlean X. He does some amazing programs based on what you want to do. Maybe it's to build muscle or burn fat. Again, no affiliation with them. And then there's another woman by the name of Gabrielle Lyons that's really good on the female aspect of things. I'm not exactly sure if she does workouts, but I know she gives some insight into who she uses. But she's a beast. She's unbelievable. And I know Jen, my wife, listens to her and gets a lot of information from her. So those are really some ideas for you going forward on what might work best for you, or at least give you a semblance of who you should look into going forward. And so I appreciate the time. I know this one went a little longer than the last couple, but I really appreciate you listening. If you ever want to walk through how any of this applies to you, I'm obviously not a fitness expert. I am a CrossFit level 2 uh, coach, but outside of that, I'm more of a body hacker. I try to figure out what works best. But if you ever have any questions about what was said in this, any insight, no pressure, you know where to find me. Just reach out. And again, thanks for listening. I'm Jason Hilliard, and I'll see you on the next episode.